Christian else. I'm 23. Business is hallbookers.co.uk. It's the student accommodation review website for the UK for private student halls. Yeah, I wanted to study entrepreneurship and sort of be in a city with a lot of opportunities in it, so I came to London and studied here. What really gave an introduction into entrepreneurship and an introduction into business in general as well. I had really no understanding of it before, so it was a lot of theory to learn from it, and a lot of the main thing I took away from it was learning the terminology of business, sort of being able to speak the business language and communicate with people that way. I've always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to start my own business, but it was when I came to London and I started working at a shop in King's Cross Station, and I had a really horrible boss, and it was at a chocolate shop, and she just, I didn't like her at all. And so after that I realized that I was working for this company that didn't enjoy the boss. They were making huge profits, and I was getting paid about £6.50 per hour, and it was quite a struggle living in London on £6.50 an hour. So that was kind of the turning, well actually it was when I got robbed overseas and I lost a whole ton of my stuff, and I realized like £6.50 an hour is going to take me years to buy back all my stuff. So I realized that I didn't want to be doing that for long-term plans. So that's when it really started to kick in that I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I started to sort of pursue it in my own way. I started reading books, seeing what sort of exploring ideas, basic stuff like Richard Branson's books, starting off there, and then I started to develop ideas about businesses, and it just, as I got more and more motivated to start my own business, I started to sort of switch my brain on to start coming up with business ideas. And it got to the point where I would have a booklet of ideas that I'd write on every day, and pretty much come up with about 2 or 3 ideas every day. That was sort of the peak I was going through. And it was just, after about 6 months, I had a list of about a whole ton of ideas. And that's when I started to sort of, it all came clear then. Like I came up with the opportunities from that, and it was just sort of smoothly transitioned to the next stage every time. There was no point stopping it, so I just kept going with it. Well, it came back from 2 things. The first thing was I stayed in student accommodation in my first year, had a horrible experience, and just noticed that there was a huge issue with students getting ripped off by landlords if they really wanted to. And it was about a year later when I started brainstorming business ideas, when I came up with when it really hit me that was a huge opportunity to create a business out of that, to solve that problem, to give students the power over their hall providers, over the landlords. So it was, it was a great sort of purpose behind it, and it was a great business opportunity as well. They called them Startup Loans UK, and they gave me about £9,000. It was just enough to build a sort of proof of concept of the website. At the time I thought that £9,000 was more than enough to create a sustainable long-term business, but I was quite naive when I started it. So anyway, I kept going down that route anyway, thinking I was building it, but I was actually building a proof of concept, and built the website and had everything sort of in place, and then did a bit of work on the side, and then later on it got picked up by the press, the London Evening Standard, which was kind of it's a really lucky thing that happened to me and gave me a bit of a breakthrough, and some investors got in touch with me and said it's a great concept and that they wanted to get involved. and they invested £75,000 after that, and from there we've just sort of pushed things forward. Startup loans was quite interesting actually, because I think it was quite a rare sort of investment opportunity. It was a great thing because they don't really judge you on what you've done in the past, and they don't really judge you on what you're capable of at that time. They kind of just see, I think they saw a bit of enthusiasm in me, and they saw a business plan that was absolutely horribly written at the time, but they still gave me the opportunity to go ahead with it, just because I guess they saw it as an opportunity for me to sort of use that money to grow and learn more from it, and that's what I did. They saw an article that I had in the London Evening Standard, and they wanted to get in touch with me, see what they were doing. They had a business in the student accommodation industry before, so they knew the market, they knew that it was a great opportunity and it was something that was really needed.
Are they individuals?
It was one individual, yeah, and he has his own business as well doing it, and estate agents, and from there we just sort of built up the plan. He gave me a lot of guidance on which way to take it. At the time I was quite lost about it. Well, it was coming to a stage where I didn't really know what the next stage was after that. I definitely wasn't making the most of the potential of the idea. I should have been trying to get investments, really push things forward before another competitor came in. But he came in at a very good time, gave me the guidance to push things forward, and I think from there we really sort of established ourselves as the UK student accommodation review website, and sort of any competitors were behind us at that stage. They couldn't keep up. The business isn't very profitable at the moment. We're building it up on the idea of creating value for students, and kind of like a lot of tech startups in the US, they don't really make a lot of money. They're just based on creating a lot of value and hoping in the long term that it will create some money or some profit. So that's what we're doing at the moment. We did have an opportunity this year to make some money, but we decided to put all our effort into just creating value for the website and funding it off getting more investments later on. I'm employed by the company, so I've got a standard wage, and my main intention is to hopefully grow the business, and that's the way I want to live. I think the main challenge is because I was really young, I had to really learn a lot of things from scratch. Running a whole website, there was SEO, there was digital marketing, general business sense of what to do next. There was a lot of reading, a lot of things along those lines. And then there was also when I was getting approached by an investor, what to do in that situation. I had absolutely no idea. I've never had a business meeting with anyone in my life, so it was quite a big step going into that. And just over the last year as well, now I'm having business meetings with some of the operations directors of these huge companies, and it's a huge learning curve. I think that the hardest thing is how to communicate with people in a business meeting, how to really get things moving in, build action points, these kind of things. My investor is also my mentor as well, so he gives me support there. Yeah, so the business has made a huge impact on my life, on my personal life. It's standard that you work 70 hours a week, sometimes more, 80 hours a week. It's a part of the life. So yeah, there's a lot you have to let go of, and you have to do that. But I try to sort of position myself around people that are willing to work that hard in life, so they understand that you can't always go out, you can't do these things. So it works out okay. Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to, I used to be a very lazy student. When I first started the business, I would wake up at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, do about 4 hours of work, So actually going back to that last question, one of the hardest things I've had to learn is the ability to just have more energy and be able to, especially coming from a student, I've had to go from doing about a 15-hour week to about a 70-hour, 80-hour week. So that's been a huge transition. And they're very supportive of it, yeah, and they're willing. They're all entrepreneurs themselves, so yeah. Possibly, I don't really know. I just always think of that boss, and that was horrible, and that was pretty much it. The most important advice I could give is for students or young people that want to start a business to really put a lot of effort into the brainstorming of creating a business. I think it's one of the most overlooked things, and people say they want to start a business, but there's very few places in the world where you can actually learn how to brainstorm effectively. And I'm sure that some people create about 4 or 5 business ideas and start their business based on those ideas, which is far too small. You need to create at least 60, 70 business ideas before you get started. And I think there's a lot of very famous entrepreneurs as well that say the same thing. They call it the engine of your brain, the ideas engine in your brain, and you can switch it on. After a while of trying to brainstorm, it becomes natural, and it almost becomes quite too much at some points because you're just constantly coming up with ideas. But it's definitely something you need to do if you're going to be an entrepreneur. Well, I think for a young person or a student, they should really put a lot of effort into it until they have sort of a eureka moment and they really know that it's going to work. There shouldn't be any doubt for a young person starting a business because they're already at a disadvantage because they've got no experience already. So if they haven't really come up with that eureka idea, they need to just keep going, and they haven't done the brainstorming, obviously. You know, I'm passionate about that kind of stuff. You got these landlords that making millions. One of the main company that ripped me off it's the UK's biggest student accommodation provider. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that on tape just because don't put that one in. But I'll start again. But yeah, definitely there's a lot of passion behind what I do because it's the landlords that make a huge profit out of students that don't have a lot of money already. And some of these companies make multi-million pound profits, and they're international corporations. And so it's always a great thing to start disrupting the market, making them hopefully lose some business, and working with other people as well is always quite exciting when you team up and you're sort of making a cause out of it. I think that I don't have a lot of, what do they call it, foresight, when you can't see that far in the future. I don't have a lot of foresight, which I think has been quite an advantage, because if I did think things through too much, I wouldn't have started the business, because I definitely wasn't sort of qualified to do it. And it's one of those things you just have to do it and sort of see where it takes you. So yeah, not overlooking things is always an advantage.